It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
David Bailey, BTC Inc., CEO and organizer of the Bitcoin Conference. David, it is good to have you back on the show. So Trump's going to be participating in the Bitcoin Conference, David. That's July 27th. How did that come about, David?
Well, first off, Josh, thank you for having me back on the show. And yeah, we're thrilled to have the president speaking in what is going to be a historic speech on Bitcoin policy and his agenda as of the new administration. We've been working with the Trump campaign for several months, advising them on different policy platform items that our industry cares about, our community cares about, and really helping lay the case for the amount of votes and the amount of dollars that our industry can deliver for the campaign. So we've been very thankful for their support. Donald Trump is a businessman first and foremost, and he sees a good opportunity. And Bitcoin is the greatest opportunity for this country. So we're very thankful to be partnered with him.
And David, we know Trump wasn't always a fan of crypto. What changed there, David? Is it what you suggested there? Is it just, does it come down to dollars and votes?
Yeah, I mean, I think for most people, they don't start as a fan of Bitcoin. Most people, when they hear about Bitcoin, they think it's a scam. That's how I got started in Bitcoin. That's how Michael Saylor got started in Bitcoin. In fact, Michael Saylor's first tweet on the topic is, once the government figures this out, they're going to shut this down. So I think, the biggest advocates of Bitcoin start as the biggest skeptics. And then, they go through a journey where they come to understand the technology better. They come to interact with it more. And eventually what seems like a scam at first eventually kind of hits home as fundamentally innovation that's transformative.
And David, I know you're a fan of Trump. And from what I've read, you're going to be hosting a fundraiser for him in Nashville. Any concern, though, David, that, we're sitting here in July and Trump and Vance don't win in November, that Biden does? Any worries you would have that, maybe you put all your eggs here in one political basket?
Well, we are running a fundraiser for the president in Nashville. We want it to be a record-breaking fundraiser. So we're working around the clock. I've been on phone calls all day for about 2 weeks straight, raising money for the president. So we are eager to show him what our industry is able to deliver and show him how much we care about this topic. Our industry considers ourselves single issue voters, meaning that, your policy on Bitcoin is what's going to determine how we show up into the ballot box.
Yo, and listen to Bitcoin Live, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. We'll be your guide through the separation of money and state, starting the cold opening with David Bailey, CEO of Bitcoin Magazine and the Bitcoin Conference, and he was being interviewed on Legacy Media. And they were talking about, guys, we have to be real here, okay? The way that politics work in the US is money, all right? The way that you get elected is money. And I love the way that David described it, which is like, look, Trump's a businessman. He sees an opportunity. He sees not only the potential voter base, but the fact that our industry is accumulating so much capital, influence, and power in the future. So yes, just like the banks today have so much influence over the politicians, to think that the Bitcoin industry in the future isn't going to have the same amount of influence, if not more, over politicians is absolutely naive. So look, I think he said the quiet part out loud. I think that's important. And because that's one of the things that's one of the rebukes that I hear from people all the time. It's like, Nico, how can you trust Trump? He's a politician. He's a businessman. He's a con artist. I hear it all the time. I'm like, dude, you don't have to trust him. Trust his incentives. He wants to get reelected into office. And if the Bitcoiners become a huge part of the donations, then guess what? You scratch my back, I scratch yours, right? So I think that's a good thing. That's how American politics work. And, I would rather have our people in charge, the politicians in our pockets, figuratively speaking, than the politicians in the pockets of the central bankers and the pockets of the CBDCs. Like, that's just kind of the reality of American politics. Also, shout out to the Bitcoin Magazine crew for advising not only the Trump campaign, but also the RNC. I think that's incredibly bullish in terms of what the regulatory environment is going to be for Bitcoin in 2025. Kind of like on the negative news as well. This isn't confirmed. This is just a rumor, but it seems like there was hints of Jamie Dimon, who's been extremely anti-Bitcoin, potentially being tapped as Treasury Secretary during the Trump administration. That would, again, that would take a step back, but just weird because the Vice President, JD Vance, is pro-Bitcoin. Trump is pro-Bitcoin, and then you put a Treasury Secretary who's anti-Bitcoin. Kind of doesn't make sense. But this is what I mean by Bitcoin entering into the political sphere. And this is what you're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, over the next 5 to 10 years as Number Go Up does its thing, and the amount of Bitcoiners that are considered ultra high net worth individuals continues to increase. If Bitcoin hits $1 million, the amount of people that hold about 50 to 30 Bitcoin is about like 25 to 50,000 people, right? If Bitcoin hits $1 million, when Bitcoin hits $1 million, the percentage of ultra high net worth individuals globally that's going to be Bitcoiners is going to be between 20 and 40%. That's a huge portion of the ultra high net worth individual population, and they're going to be Bitcoiners. And what do these ultra high net worth individuals do? Well, they use some of their funds to obviously influence politics, donate to certain political parties. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. It's not a pretty system. I'm a believer in the book, The Sovereign Individual. They make the case that information technologies, the rise of information technologies is going to make politics irrelevant over the long run. I do believe in that theory, but that's not the case right now. We're still in the transitionary period, right? Where, figureheads like Nayib Bukele, a potential Trump administration, and Javier Milei are so important for our movement because it's just a matter of just leave Bitcoin alone to cook and it will cook, rather than, the entire American government apparatus regime going has a literal bullseye on the industry, right? So I think it's something for Bitcoiners to, it's a tough pill to swallow, because I think a lot of us value our independence. They value the cyberpunk movement. They value the, being anti-government and all that stuff. But it's like, would you rather have our people in charge, or would you rather have the anti-Bitcoin people in charge? Because I've always made the case for you guys. It's the party of green, the party of fiat, the party of central bank digital currencies, the party of endless wars, versus the party of orange, the party of Bitcoin. Right. So, I'm really glad that this is the direction that it's going. And I just want to emphasize enough. They're politicians, right? You can't really trust them, but I do trust their incentives, and I do trust in their want to being voted into power again. And if it's the Bitcoiners that are donating the money for them to get into power, then, I think that's a good thing, because obviously the Bitcoiners are going to have influence over policy and over the executive branch. And that's an ideal environment for the Bitcoin regulatory environment here in the United States. And the United States is the global leader. So this is, worldwide as well. Really bullish on that. In other news as well, BlackRock leads $1 billion Bitcoin ETF surge. So it looks like, boys, we're back. We still haven't broken the overall downtrend. But, from those 50, I think it was like 52, 54 lows, Bitcoin made a massive recovery. And that, of course, is being led by, BlackRock. And of course, you saw the very bullish video that we played for you guys on Monday of Larry Fink on Legacy Financial Media, basically saying look, I felt negative about Bitcoin initially, did a research, and then I started feeling bullish about it. And look, at the end of the day, it's Bitcoin's incentives. That's what's happening. If we have time, also, we're going to get to two important cases that I think are incredibly important to talk about, which is the Tornado Cash case and the samurai case. Both those cases are incredibly important because depending on how those cases go, it sets a precedent. And essentially what the US government is trying to do, because they're really, you know, in the forefront of this. This is why elections matter, ladies and gentlemen. They're trying to basically set a precedent that if you write open source software and criminals use that open source software, somehow you're responsible for it. And what they're really trying to do is they're trying to set an example. I think eventually, you know, they're going to try to put pressure on open source software wallets like, you know, like Blue Wallet, like Electrum, like Sparrow, to implement KYC into the wallet. I think that's where they're trying to go with this. So it's really important to stay vigilant. And also it's really important, like I'll be honest with you guys, it's really important to have pro Bitcoin people in the halls of power. Like that's the reality. That's where we are in the movie. If we want Bitcoin to become the next global reserve currency, that was an eventuality. That was a bridge that was going to be crossed. I didn't think it was going to happen so soon, but you know, here we are. Anyways, we got a loaded show for you guys today. Also, during the culture segment, I got my co-host with me here today, Optimus Fields, and we're going to talk about something kind of very interesting. Some more news is coming out in regards to this assassination attempt, and it just leaves us with a lot of questions in terms of what the official narrative is. And again, you got to connect the dots. You know, the legacy media's initial reporting on, you know, how everything transpired and how they just blatantly lied, you know, already had me a little bit suspicious. But this news story about, you know, the slanted roof, like, I mean, come on, bro. That is, you know, it makes me ask some questions, to say the least. Also, I'm not the only one saying this. Like, this isn't just, you know, anons on the internet, you know, questioning the official party line. You know, you have very, very, you know, notable figureheads like Elon Musk. I saw a YouTube video of Ron Paul this morning basically saying like, yeah, that was bullshit. Like something happened there. You know, so that we have two options, right? They're both equally as bad, right? Which is you have either extreme incompetence or it was on purpose. Obviously, we can't say exactly which one it is. But you know what? You know, something happened. Some people say it's divine intervention. Trump literally moved his head for a second and that bullet missed, bro, which is crazy. And of course, you know, being that Trump is pro Bitcoin, that definitely, you know, would have affected the price if they were successful with that assassination attempt. Anyways, Op, did you have some words before we move on?
No, numbers? I mean, I think you covered the culture very good, and I have a perfect meme for what you just finished in. But really, I just want to take this moment, chat, to, you know, do my victory lap here, because, you know, I know you guys were giving Nico some shit in the chat a couple months back. But Nico's finally coming around. We're finally coming around, so you guys can lesson up on Nico. He literally just said what I was trying to say last month or whatever when, you know, the OptiGate happened on the show. But we're so back, boys and girls. We're so back. No, just crazy times. Like, I think today's culture, of course, we're kind of venturing out a little bit in the culture. So we're not just going to be talking about Bitcoin culture, but we're going to be commenting on culture at large with the Bitcoin lens. And what we're going to show today is just, I don't even know how to sum it up. It's just like clown world in action. And this is why we're Bitcoiners in the first place, is just like having this objective, well, semi-objective vantage point on what's going on coming up from the legacy media and the institutions. And it's just incredible what we're seeing right now. And again, I keep saying, I think we're on the best timeline possible, because we're right, and we're just winning. And the end of this year is going to be incredible, in my opinion. I think we're going to get some good price action. And man, the more Bitcoin you stack, the more sovereignty you build for yourself, the better you protect yourself. And yes, we are getting interesting times where politics has landed on our front door. So I think it's very important that we're talking about all this stuff.
Amen to that. Amen to that. All right, everybody, before we move on to the next set, I do want to give a shout out to our lead sponsor. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. All you got to do is you put in your email address to get started. By the way, if you're an existing customer of Bitcoin Well, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points, and you can redeem those points. You could use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. And that gives you an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. What makes Bitcoin Well different than all the other Bitcoin on-ramps? Well, it is self-custody by default. That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you intend to take self-custody. As soon as your funds clear, they go straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state, because self-custody is the revolution. They don't allow you to leave your Bitcoin on the platform. That is key, because the more people take self-custody, the better the world will be. All right, everybody, let's play one Bitcoin Wishing Well. Let's toss a coin into the Wishing Well, and let's see. First person to scan the QR code gets the sats. So today it's 500 sats. If you use promo code simplybtc, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, everybody. So I made it incredibly easy for you guys. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to Stamp Seed website, where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. Stamp your generational wealth seed phrase, your Bitcoin seed weights, on titanium. Don't write it down on paper. Don't be that person. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $64,050. Sats per dollar, 1,562. Block height, 852,632. Blocks to halving, 197,368. Halving estimate March 28, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity, 5,069 BTC. Capacity value, 324 million. Realized monetary inflation, 1.51%. Market capitalization, 1.26 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.49%. In the grand scheme of things, Bitcoin is just getting started. All right, everybody. So I do want to talk about, in relation to the cold opening, again, guys, this is huge news. And I am aware, I understand, and I empathize with it. So many of you guys are like our boy Rustin, who's dropping the Simply Bitcoin originals. You guys just don't like government. You guys don't like DC. You guys don't like the swamp. But the reality is that as our industry gets bigger, we're going to have more influence in the world, not only from, an architectural perspective, from, like, look, the quintillionaires are in charge right now. That's what the World Economic Forum is. In 5, 10, 20 years, when Bitcoin takes over the world, and a huge percentage of the world's wealthiest people, most influential people, are Bitcoiners, then, I mean, come on, bro. Like, of course, some of those, a percentage of those people are going to want to influence politics in their country. And I would say that's a good thing rather than having the, neo commies in charge that literally are telling you you'll eat nothing and be happy, right? I'd rather have some freedom loving Bitcoiners that are influencing policy and politics. Anyways, that being said, check out this Bloomberg article. Trump seizes on crypto as wedge issue as donors cheer him on. In 2019, former President Donald Trump proclaimed he was not a fan of cryptocurrencies because their values are based on thin air and they can facilitate drug trafficking and other crimes. It's so funny because Larry Fink said something very similar. What a difference 5 years, millions of dollars in donations, and another tight presidential race can make. You see the legacy media, the way they cover stuff. It's so interesting. With elections less than 4 months away, crypto lobbyists have scored the backing of the soon-to-be Republican nominee, just as supporters hope Trump's political fortunes are on the upswing after he survived an assassination attempt on July 13th. And the industry's wish list for a potential second Trump term is coming into focus. At the top is a more hands-on approach from regulators who cracked down on crypto companies under President Joe Biden following the collapse of the FTX exchange and a long list of other scandals, bankruptcies, and criminal cases. Quote, in a Trump administration, you're not going to see bank regulators force banks to close bank accounts of crypto companies, said Brian Morgenstern, head of public policy at crypto miner Riot Platforms, who worked in the White House and the Treasury during the Trump administration. Quote, he would not use the Energy Department to single out Bitcoin miners. Here's a picture, of course, of Trump with Clean Spark. I believe this is a Clean Spark CEO. I might be mistaken, but a Clean Spark executive, right? And there's a bunch of other executives that were with Trump at Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach. So, obviously, the industry Trump, the Trump administration, the RNC is very pro-industry. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good for Bitcoin businesses and Bitcoin innovation in the United States. Anyways, the nitty-gritty details of Trump's crypto policies have yet been ironed out, but based on his public remarks, echoed by the platform of the Republican National Convention, some potential winners and losers are emerging. Trump has pledged to promote Bitcoin mining in the U.S., protect self-custody of cryptocurrencies, prevent the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency that would compete with the industry. The former president wants the country to lead the nation in developing new technology. Now, another thing, I'll comment that I'll make here in regards to the Federal Reserve issuing a central bank digital currency and that competing with the industry. Bring it on. Let's compete with the CBDC. Bitcoin will win the day every single time. But this article, as you could tell, it's already a little bit biased, specifically like the first sentence, the way it was phrased, it was a little bit passive aggressive. But it's basically saying preventing the Federal Reserve from competing with the industry. No. The Biden administration is trying to destroy the industry to create a monopoly so that the CBDC doesn't have competition from the industry. Because if you have the free market competing with the government, my money's on the free market every single time, because CBDCs don't solve the issue of inflation, and they keep omitting that. They keep leaving that convenient fact out, because if they include it, then people are going to say, why would I use a currency that you can confiscate at the flick of a switch, you can debase whenever you want, versus a currency that is unconfiscatable? And not only that, it's actually deflationary. It actually increases in purchasing power over time, right? So who's going to win in that competition? Of course, Bitcoin's going to win in that competition, but they can't tell you the facts, just like they couldn't tell you the facts when Trump, when the initial assassination attempt was happening, and they were like, oh, Trump tripped on the stage. Legacy media can't tell you the facts. It's like they're propagandists. It's insane. Anyways, it goes on to say, crypto innovators and others in the technology sector are under attack from Biden and Democrats. While Biden stifles innovation with more regulation and higher taxes, President Trump is ready to encourage American leadership in this and other emerging technologies. Also, I think a lot of people are looking forward to Trump's speech at Bitcoin 2024. According to the Bitcoin Magazine crew and just some conversations I've had, he's going to be dropping some awesome kind of news and things that he hasn't said in his normal campaign speeches. So I'm really looking forward to that. If Trump really wants to fire a shot across the world, like if he really wants to change things, just say the words "end the Fed" at the Bitcoin conference. End the Fed. If you really want to put the fear of God and the administrative state that just tried to assassinate you, we think, say end the Fed, because that is their source of power. That is how the bureaucracies got so bloated. That's how they're able to pay for the endless wars. So, Trump calls himself a populist. He's running on the populist platform. He's for the working class. He's for the middle class. He wants to protect the middle class. Bitcoin is money for the middle class. He wants to protect the middle class and the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve is the most insidious mechanism I've ever seen. This inflation tax, this sinister tax that takes from the poor and the middle class, gives it back to the wealthy, and gives it back to the government. It is so sinister. It is so evil. I saw a TikTok video this morning talking about how back in the boomer era, back in the 80s and the 70s, you used to be able to buy a house. Your wife or your husband would be able to stay home, take care of the kids. Used to have a car. Used to do your 9 to 5, come home and live a nice and noble life. Now both parents have to work. You can barely make ends meet. That's broken money. That is literally, the central bank caused that. The Federal Reserve is solely responsible for that evil, right? So, Trump, say it, bro. Say end the Fed. Say end the Fed. You really want to drain the swamp? Attack the swamp's source of power. And that source of power is the Federal Reserve. So I hope he says it. I don't know if he will. But anyways, that's my take. Opti, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, well, first off, I don't know if I said this on the show this week, but I definitely been saying this to friends when I have conversations with them. I really do believe that Bitcoin Nashville 2024 is going to be bigger than Miami 2021 Bitcoin conference. Like, maybe it's not going to be as big in size, but I think in the significance and the impact and the media attention that we're going to get after this conference coming up in 10 days is going to be absolutely huge. Like, I think this is one of those defining moments where Bitcoin will be put on the map. It's been constantly put on the map the last year or so. It's been in the conversation constantly, whether it's on the legacy media or the the presidential candidates conversation. Like, Bitcoin is definitely on the map now, and I've been saying it as a meme for a while. Bitcoin's crossing that Rubicon into the mainstream consciousness, and now it's undeniable. Like, you need to have a Bitcoin stance, whether it's good or bad. Like, people are going to have a stance on Bitcoin right now, and we say it all the time. Bitcoin exposes people's incentives. So we're going to see who's who. And of course, me, we're getting trolled in the chat saying, what is this, simply trust politicians now? It's like, no, we don't trust politicians. This is the whole thing. But you are naive if you don't understand, or at least regard the fact that politics is important right now, because they control the world. Like Nico said it best, politics is completely aligned with the Cantillon effect. They have the money printer, so they're in control of everything going on in the world right now. And, I would never tell you guys to donate to politicians, but I'm not against buying politicians, which you might say I'm a hypocrite here. But hey, where we are right now, it reminds me of the Plato quote where you may not care about politics, but politics obviously cares about you. And hey, if we can get some cover in the Bitcoin industry to get Bitcoin completely out of the door, make sure that people are running nodes and taking Bitcoin into custody, like, this is how we survive. Versus, I know Bitcoin global, but as an American, I really want to see our country not attack Bitcoin businesses, because Bitcoin is good for not only America, but for the world. Like, Bitcoin is the solution here, and we talk about this constantly. And I think it's very important that we play the game. Like, I believe in the libertarian ethos of like, just let me live, don't tread on me and all that stuff. But I also understand that burying our heads in the sand, moving off grid, and not participating with society is a losing strategy. Like, we got to be on the offensive. You have to participate in the world as it is. And like I constantly say, just keep showing people that living on the Bitcoin standard, a personal Bitcoin standard, improves your lives. And as more people have this conversation and realize that Bitcoin is a legitimate thing, it's going to be so much easier for us to start orange pilling our friends and family, because they're feeling the pain. We're seeing this go around social media constantly. People are finally understanding that they are poorer than they've ever been. They're working harder than they ever have, and they can't save money right now. So I know savings isn't as sexy as like a get rich quick scheme or, passive income or whatever the new hype train is on social media. But this is how people protect themselves, is by saving in something that cannot be debased. And now this conversation is happening at the highest levels. Like, this is all good for Bitcoin. Of course, keep your head on a swivel. This is not about blind trust. It's obviously don't trust but verify. But I think all these conversations that we're seeing play out right now is very, very important. And also, shouts out to the Bitcoin Mag team. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. Like, they, say what you want about them in the chat, but they are doing, I think, incredible work engaging with the people in power. Like, this is incredible what we're seeing. And of course, we're going to be talking about Larry Fink as well. This isn't about like us cheerleading the banks or the politicians. This is just about understanding the incentives and where we are right now. And hey, I would much rather have people pro Bitcoin in quote unquote positions of power than people fighting Bitcoin. And this is where we are. Let's not be naive about where we are in the story right now. But of course, keep your head on a swivel. Only the paranoid survive. So I love the paranoia, but also, hey, a win is a win. A win is a win.
A win is a win, man. A win is a win, and we are most definitely winning. Right, everybody, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, and of course, I'm talking about the Pleb Party. Guys, it's coming up next week. Thursday, literally in 8 days, the Pleb Party is happening in Nashville, Tennessee. Over 1,000 Bitcoiners are expected to attend. The last Pleb Party in Miami sold out 8 days before. It's going to be hosted in an amazing venue, a rustic automobile factory from 1910 with brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. It's a 12-hour open bar. That means that the tickets and food are the food and drinks are included in the ticket. So it's a 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight in Nashville the day before Bitcoin 2024, Thursday, July 25th. And confirmed attendees include Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, the entire Simply Bitcoin crew, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Tatum Turnup, Adam O'Brien, and many, many more. If you're going to the Bitcoin 2024 conference where Donald Trump is going to be speaking at, this is the party to be at the day before the conference starts. You definitely don't want to miss it. And I hope to see a lot of you guys in person, in the flesh, at the Pleb Party in Nashville 2024. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description for more information. Let's hit the news.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, everybody, listen. If you don't take self-custody, it's not really your Bitcoin, all right? take self-custody, and you got to get yourself a stamp seed, stamp your seed phrase. But then you need a hardware wallet, right, in order to spend that cold storage Bitcoin. And of course, we recommend the Passport by Foundation Devices. I actually got a message on the Orange Pill app, and it was basically like, Nico, I got a passport. I don't know how to set it up. They have a concierge service. They offer concierge service, and that basically means that you pay for the fee, and they have a Bitcoin expert that will literally help handhold you through setting up your cold storage wallet. And if you pair up the Passport with the Envoy app, it makes spending cold storage Bitcoin incredibly easy. If you use the promo code SIMPLY, you'll get a discount for the Passport hardware wallet. Guys, not your keys, not your cheese. Take self-custody, get yourself a hardware wallet, and of course, we recommend Passport by Foundation Devices. All right, everybody. All right, so let's get to today's news. Pretty big deal. BlackRock leads $1 billion Bitcoin ETF surge. In July 2024, Bitcoin ETFs in the United States experienced significant inflows, totaling over $1 billion in just 3 days. On July 16th alone, the ETF saw a net inflow of $422 million, making the largest single-day inflow in a month. This surge in investment comes amid a bullish sentiment in the cryptocurrency market, with the total inflows since the inception of the ETFs reaching an all-time high of 281,000 Bitcoin. That's more Bitcoin than Michael Saylor at this point. BlackRock's iShares ETF led the way with a single-day inflow of $260 million, followed by Fidelity's ETF with $61 million. The consistent inflows over 8 executive days suggest strong investor confidence and a positive outlook for Bitcoin's future. Dude, this is crazy. This is institutional money of Wall Street signaling. They're basically telling you, we feel very confident about Bitcoin's future. We feel really good about this. This is the way. That's what they're telling you. This is incredibly bullish. After everything that's happened, right? All the volatility, we dropped from 73K down to 52. The ex-president's potential assassination, right? All the FUD, the Gary Gensler stuff, the Biden administration, all of this stuff. Institutional investors, Wall Street, aka the so-called smart money, is still bullish on Bitcoin's future, and I think everyone is anticipating a crazy 2025, especially if the Trump administration gets elected and the United States becomes pro-Bitcoin, which is so crazy to even say that, right? So this is incredibly bullish. BlackRock kind of leading the charge. Who would know? Larry Fink, the same guy that was, talking about ESG. It's so funny because they ended their whole ESG stuff as soon as they took on this Bitcoin stuff. It's so funny how Bitcoin just fixes things. It aligns incentive structures. Max Kaiser said it the other day. You know what? Michael Saylor is working for you if you're holding Bitcoin. Larry Fink, he's working for you if you're holding Bitcoin. If Trump gets elected, he'll be actually working for you if you're holding Bitcoin, right? This is an aligned incentive structure model. It's beautiful. Everyone pursuing their own greed, their own incentives, actually makes the network stronger, and it benefits everybody else. So that's incredibly bullish. This is great news. Good stuff. I'm really, really optimistic about 2025. In other news, I do want to talk about this as well, which is we kind of have to go back into the past because this has happened. The past doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. That's the famous saying. And back in, I believe it was like the 90s, there was something called the so-called crypto wars. Now, this wasn't about cryptocurrency. They were talking about cryptography. And the initial problem at the intelligence agencies and the NSA, right? It's always the 3-letter agencies. It's going to be like a theme of today's episode, I suspect. Basically, they didn't want the public to have cryptography that was strong enough that they would not be able to decrypt. Now, the problem with that is that that's basically saying, and this is what this shirt was basically showing, is they wanted to classify it as like a munition, right? And that it couldn't be exported. But the thing is that it's speech, right? Like, are you trying to tell me that cryptography, like a form of speech, a form of text, a form of numbers, is somehow dangerous to society? Because that's essentially what they're trying to make the case for with these open source wallet developers, right? Like, they're basically trying to make the case that, okay, you developed open source software and criminals used it. Because criminals used it, you're held accountable. Now, they know that's naive. The reason that they're trying to do that is they're trying to set a precedent in law, right? So because when they set a precedent in law, by the way, they're circumventing the legislative process. They're not going through Congress trying to pass these laws. No. They're doing it through legal enforcement, right? And they're setting a precedent basically saying that if you write open source software that violates US sanction policy, if you write open source software that criminals use, that enemies of the United States use, you can be held liable for that. And then, of course, what is the inevitable outcome of that? The inevitable outcome of that is that if you're an open source developer, now all of a sudden you're like fearing for yourself. You're like, dude, holy shit, like I'm just writing code. I'm just, developing one of these open source Bitcoin wallets. Like, potentially I'm in danger, because this is how it starts. First, it's privacy. And then in 5 years, they'll say, you know what? You're a criminal because your open source wallet doesn't have KYC. That KYC system is exclusive. This is the part that they leave out. The thing that Bitcoin fixes is that it doesn't care about where you're from, right? It doesn't matter where you're from, what your skin color is, what your beliefs are. If you have access to the internet and you're able to download a Bitcoin wallet, now you're able to interact with the global economy, right? The way that the current system functions and what they conveniently leave out is that depending on where you're born, you have the ability to open a bank account or you don't have the ability to open a bank account. It's a system of exclusion, right? It's not a system of inclusion. Bitcoin is for everyone and anyone. The dollar is for a select few, and that select few is exclusively determined by a bureaucratic elite in Washington, D.C. that don't necessarily have the best track record, and we'll get to more of that during the culture segment. So yes, these two cases, the Tornado Cash case and the Samurai case, are incredibly important because depending on what their outcome is going to set a precedent, right? And that precedent is a very, very slippery slope. Like open source software, like what do you mean you can sanction open source? You like writing code, right? Like it's like writing a form of speech. This is supposed to be protected by the First Amendment, but of course it's not, because it's a threat to the way that the current system works. And the way that the current system works is that the US government has weaponized and politicized the US dollar to achieve the political goals of the bureaucratic uniparty in Washington, D.C. That's what they want, right? And Bitcoin is a threat to that because it's an open monetary network. Anyways, so let's get to it. Roman Storm granted delay of Tornado Cash trial. Alex Perstesi denied bail by Dutch court. A judge has granted a delay in the trial of Tornado Cash developer Roman Storm in the United States. Meanwhile, in Europe, fellow Tornado Cash developer Alex Pertse must prepare for his appeal in prison after Dutch court denied his bail. Remember, these two guys developed a software that the vast majority of people were using were not criminal, but there was a portion of them that was linked to North Korea. Of course, the United States has sanctions against North Korea, and again, they didn't focus on the vast majority of people. They focused on North Korea. Now, I don't think they did that because they cared that North Korea was using a mixer. Right. We all know that the traditional financial system is where the vast majority of illicit transactions of illicit activity happens. They used it because, again, they're trying to set a precedent because an open monetary network is a threat to current U.S. sanction policy. Anyways, moving on to the next one. This is something more close to home. This is where Nico, Opti was talking about OptiGate. This is where Nico started getting very fucking upset. It was this and then the attempted assassination attempt. And I just took off my gloves and I said, you know what, fuck the inclusivity. Biden is a threat to Bitcoin. I'm all for Trump and RFK because, you know, once they start locking us in a box, once they start going after our industry, once they attempt to assassinate the potential future Bitcoin president, the first one, you know, I tend to get a little bit upset when those things happen, right? And we have to be vocal about it. So anyways, of course, Samurai, you know, this is something that the community used a lot. They like the mixing services. They like the privacy. Supposedly that's protected by the Fourth Amendment, right? No unreasonable searches and seizures. But in today's world, an end stage fiat, that goes completely out the window. In a system of coercion, they need control. In a system of theft, they need control. They need they need the propaganda, they need the coercion, they need the misrepresentations, they need the lies in order for that system to function. And by the way, that's not my idea, that's Jeff Booth's idea. Anyways, I completely agree with it. So TDEV permitted to live in Portugal as DOJ versus Samurai case proceeds. So this is, I think, pretty good in the sense that, look, so one of the developers, he was granted his bail. One of the things that he wanted was, I want to stay in Portugal while this case plays out. I don't want to be extradited back to the United States. And if you take a look at the Tornado Cash trial as well, look, a granted delay. So, you know, you're starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. And I think the pattern definitely has to do with the political situation. What is the political situation? If you take a look at the polls, guess what? Trump looks... the betting odds, not the polls. The polls tend to be a little bit politically biased. But if you take a look at the betting odds tend to have the most accurate representation of who's going to be elected president. Why? Because people have actual real money at stake. If you take a look at the betting odds, it looks like Trump, especially after the debate and then the attempted assassination attempt, it looks like Trump is on the cusp of winning the presidency. Do I think it's a coincidence that they start being a little bit more lenient with these things? Absolutely not. You know, they're starting to walk it back. They're seeing the writing on the wall and they're saying, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Now, I hope when the Trump administration, when they get into power, if they win the election, first, they keep their promise about freeing Ross, right? And then second, you know, they get involved and try to get these cases dismissed because this is absolute and utter bullshit. So anyways, bullish news overall. I mean, Opti, remember a couple months ago, brother? Like, shit was dark, dude. Like, me and you were talking. We're like, bro, are we going to have to go to El Salvador? Like, we're going to have to hold it down. We're going to be streaming from the gulag. And then all of a sudden, bro, it was like, it happened very quickly, you know? But I think looking back in hindsight, it's always obvious in hindsight. I think it was always going to happen because the game theory came into place, right? If you are against Bitcoin, you don't ban Bitcoin. You ban yourself from Bitcoin, and then it creates an opportunity for the other people that embrace Bitcoin. They get an advantage over you, right? And I think that's essentially what the Democratic Party did to themselves. They metaphorically shot themselves in the foot while taking an anti-Bitcoin stance. Look, I know for a fact that a huge portion of the Democrat constituency is pro-Bitcoin. They own Bitcoin. So the Democratic Party isn't actually representing their voter base. That's not a popular thing to run on. Like Elizabeth Warren's anti-crypto, I'm like, that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, what do you like? In what world did she think that was a good idea or a good platform to run on, bro? I'm just, you know, those are my 2 sats on all this, bro. Anyways, Opti, like, what a turn of events, bro. Like, this is awesome. Bitcoin's winning. You know, we got Larry Fink on board. He's working for us. We got Michael Saylor. He's working for us. We got Trump. He potentially is working for us if he survives until the election and wins. So yeah, man, just bullish news overall. Good time to be a Bitcoiner because it was awfully dark not too long ago.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, me and Nico were, I don't know if we were necessarily fully black-pilled, but there was a point there after the Samurai Dev arrest where we're like, man, things are heating up. This is getting crazy. And of course, again, just to echo what I said earlier, keeping our heads on a swivel and only the paranoid survive. Of course, we're not fully just like, like the Republican Party is here to save us all, because I don't believe in a savior of this situation. Like, you need to take back your individual sovereignty. But with all that being said, I think this is just the classic gradually then suddenly meme happening in real time, just in a different factor. Usually when we think of the gradually then suddenly meme, it's in regard to the Bitcoin price. But here it's really about the sentiment towards Bitcoin. And I'm reminded on the last thing you said, and then I'm going to go into the Larry Fink stuff. I'm reminded of Bitcoin. Pierre Rochard saying, the Elizabeth Warren meme campaign of the anti-crypto army is going to go down as one of the worst political campaigns ever. And it's playing out like in real time that this is exactly the case. Okay, now going to like the Larry Fink BlackRock ETF news. I think the main signal here is just that there is so much interest in Bitcoin in the face of chaos. Because of course, everyone, when they think of the BlackRock ETF, they're just kind of saying like, oh, Larry Fink is buying this Bitcoin. But let's not forget that means that people are looking to Bitcoin as a legitimate asset, a legitimate investment, something that they need to hold in the face of all the clown world chaos that we're seeing. And I think that is further proof to what we've been saying here on the show for a long time, that once you get into chaotic times, you want to get into an asset that you can't get debased, that's risk-free. All the memes we've heard before, and we've been saying on the show for a long time, like sats are my stablecoin. Like Bitcoin is the true stability in the world. It's the only thing with a strong monetary policy. The price fluctuations, the quote unquote volatility of Bitcoin is really the fiat world rebalancing itself on Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is stable. Yes, there's fluctuations in the price, but Bitcoin is the most stable thing in the world. And we're seeing this play out in real time. When things get crazy, people look for stability. And we're seeing that that's happening in real time. Yes, of course, we can all say that Larry Fink is doing the classic billionaire FUD playbook, stacking his bags. And then once he's got his bag stacked, he's like, I love Bitcoin, pump it to the moon. We're seeing this play out in real time. And we've been calling this for a long time on Simply Bitcoin. But there is another point here, and you see a lot of it in the chat, and you see a lot of Bitcoiners on Twitter saying the same thing. It's really funny to me that having politicians and bankers work for you, the person they claim to work for, is such a novel idea. And we're seeing incredible pushback from Bitcoiners again, which I think is important. And, only the paranoid survive, like I keep saying, because we've seen behind the veil, and we understand that most politicians, most bankers, they aren't working for their constituents. They don't care about the population out there. They're just like, I only care about shareholder value. And we're seeing that separation from reality to, what the powers that be want to happen. And I think one of the biggest signals of this was when BlackRock stopped their ESG funds. Once they started moving away from the ESG, narrative, we're seeing that the pendulum is swinging the other way, which also has some things to cause concern. We've seen this play out throughout history, where once it's not popular to push things in the public sector, they push it to the private sector. So there's still things to be conscious of, and there's still things to be concerned about. But again, I think this is just that pendulum swinging towards what we've been saying for a while. Like, you're moving away from the collective ideology to seemingly more freedom ideals. And I think this is where Bitcoiners are going to shine. And obviously, I think this is why so many Bitcoiners are having a hard time acknowledging the Finks and the RFK Juniors and the Vivics and Trumps of the world embracing Bitcoin as a good thing, because we got that PTSD. Like, we still have that trauma in us where, like, we don't trust them. But again, I think this is all good for Bitcoin. And then kind of just adding on to what Nico was saying in regards to the Tornado Cash and the Samurai arrest, which is, I think, where you started to see Simply Bitcoin kind of pivot and, for lack of better terms, got more radicalized here, which is just a meme, like, who radicalized you? And it's like, you did. Bitcoin is speech. This is very clearly obvious if you understand how Bitcoin works. It's code. Code is speech. It's literally ones and zeros. Like, Bitcoin is speech. It is protected under the First Amendment in America. This is a First Amendment issue. Obviously, most politicians out there don't care about the Constitution, but this is protected. Bitcoin is simply speech. And I'm glad to see that there is some light at the end of the tunnel in regards to these arrests, and hopefully we'll be able to set some good precedent so that this can never happen again. Obviously, I believe Bitcoin can't be stopped if we're all vigilant, running nodes, taking Bitcoin into custody. And you can't stop an idea whose time has come. And this is where we are right now. So very interesting times that we find ourselves in. Of course, it's only going to get crazier in clown world before it gets better. But I think these are all good developments. But again, I just want to reiterate, like, in the face of chaos, people move their money to things that they think are the least risky. And I think this ETF news and the, 422 million inflows into the BlackRock ETF is a signal that people are waking up to the idea that Bitcoin is the real stability in the world. And we've been saying that for so long. Like, we're so ahead of the game. It's absolutely incredible. This is the best timeline to be a part of. We're winning. We're winning, but stay vigilant. We got to stay vigilant.
We're absolutely winning. Of course, stay vigilant. Yeah, man, I think we're gonna keep winning. It's just we have better incentives. They have coercion. We have incentives. My money is on incentives. Anyways, guys, let's hit the culture. Lots to talk about. Let's check it out.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. Join the 11,178 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. To get started, scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. And the Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. So if you are traveling, you move to a new city, has a really cool geographical feature, and it will literally show you the Bitcoiners that are near you. It's a great tool to build up that Bitcoiner Rolodex. I truly believe that Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most powerful, influential people in the next 5 to 10 years. So it's probably a good idea to build up that Bitcoiner friend list. It's the best way to reach me via DM. I don't really answer anything else. I've just get flooded with messages these days. So one of the best ways to reach me, and I will get back to you, is on the Orange Pill app. If you have any questions for me personally, you can find me, Nico, on the Orange Pill app and send me a message. So to get started, like I said, scan the QR code, check the link in the video description, stack friends who stack sats on the Orange Pill app. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to start doing Opti preface this a little bit, but as time progresses, there's different types of well, I was telling Opti to correct his green screen, and look at that. I have to do it too. So as time progresses, what's going to happen is I truly believe that Bitcoin is going to become a political movement, just like you have the conservatives and you have the liberals. One of the most powerful political movements of the 20th century was Marxism. I really believe that Bitcoin is going to become a way of life. It's going to become a way of people looking at the world. It's like you're changing your operating system. You're changing the way that you're looking at the world and your life philosophy. I've seen this happen to people that adopt a Bitcoin standard. And that's why you have applications like the Orange Pill app. That's why you have things like Bitcoin Twitter. That's why you have these conferences that Bitcoiners are so excited to go to, because it's like you don't really have anything in common with the no coiners anymore. So what is that but not a lifestyle? What is that but not, being around your tribe, being around the people that you have something in common with? Now, we're going to start covering, I don't want to say the normie news, but let's say world events during the culture segment, specifically when it's me and Opti. But we're going to be covering them from a Bitcoiner's perspective, because what you find on YouTube today is you get the conservative angle, which is like, ugh. And then you get the liberal angle, which is like, ugh. And then you get kind of like the center, which I think is evaporated these days. I don't think it exists. And that's all fiat. We're going to give you the news from the Bitcoin angle, which is a lot more optimistic. And we actually have a solution to all this clown world shit. The conservatives, all they do is react, right? Nothing against them. I have a lot of conservative friends. The liberals, they tend to, I don't want to complain is a bad word, but they tend to get, how do I phrase this? The liberals tend to, they empathize with a lot of the world's problems, and they a lot of those problems, they see that there's injustice in them, and they like to highlight them, right? I'll put it like that. So those are the two kind of like commentary things that the world gives you at the moment. We're going to give you the Bitcoin angle, which is a lot more inclusive. It doesn't really care where you stand. We actually have a solution to all of this stuff, and it's way more optimistic and hopeful and extremely less divisive. So anyways, I wanted to give a little bit of context. And I hope you guys enjoy it. So
yeah.
it's all yours.
I mean, first, of course, I can already hear in the chat, like, this is a Bitcoin show. What does this have to do with Bitcoin? So this
has everything to do with Bitcoin.
Of course.
Bitcoin fixes it.
Bitcoin fixes everything. So we're really going to cover some of the clown world issues that we've seen after this assassination attempt that we've been all talking about probably on social media the last couple of days as more news has rolled out, and just the sheer incompetence, or rather, I don't know if I can say it here, the JFK-ness of what we're seeing happening in real time. But of course, as Max Kaiser is so good at doing on Twitter, he is a little hyperbolic in this, but I really love this tweet right here. And he goes, Satoshi saved Trump. This next one I don't necessarily agree with, as a Christian, but Bitcoin is God. If Trump hadn't found Bitcoin when he did, the outcome would have been different. And this is why this week I've been like, yo, this is the best timeline ever, because if you think about the other possible outcome of what happened on Saturday, I think we would all be in a more black-pilled situation right now. But as a Bitcoiner, as the trends that we're seeing, it's hard not to be hopeful. As a Bitcoiner, it's hard not to wake up and be happy. But this clip came out. Someone did some incredible work on just highlighting how crazy of a miracle, if you want to use that word, how just crazy of a chance it was that Trump didn't actually get shot on this. So let's look at this. And here's just Consortier Bitcoin. He goes, take a close look, then pray. You didn't witness luck. You witnessed divine intervention. Let's look at this. This is absolutely incredible. Just how close we came to a totally different timeline.
Take a look what happened.
Missed by a quarter of an inch, by 2 seconds. This visual right here at the bottom is just incredible to see how this is working. And this is, we've seen this happen before. We covered the deep state on Monday. I'm sure all of us have seen the Zapruder film in regards to the JFK assassination. I'm sure we've all kind of gone down the quote unquote conspiracy theories. And I think at this point, if you aren't at least acknowledging that there might be something to conspiracy theories, you're not that intelligent.
Look, like the questioning it.
Why can't we question here?
It's just like, come on, bro. Like, and I don't mean to, steal your thunder, Opti, or like whatever, but like, just this is insane. How are we? Like, the institutions themselves are suffering from inflation, bro.
Yes. No, stop there, and then we'll talk about it, because that's the perfect segue to the response here. So we have what's her name again? Kimberly Cheadles. She's head of the security Secret Service here, and this is her response to what happened at the rally on Saturday. Let's listen to this. It's incredible.
Director of the United States Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadles, speaks exclusively with ABC News, taking responsibility for that stunning breakdown in security.
This is an event that should have never happened.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service.
Resign.
It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
Minutes after Trump took the stage,
yeah, but I'm not going to resign.
Gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks wounding the former president and 3 others before a Secret Service counter sniper took him out.
I'm being told that the shooter was actually identified as a potential person of suspicion. Units started responding to seek that individual out. Unfortunately, with the rapid succession of how things unfolded, by the time that individual was eventually located, they were on the rooftop and were able to fire off at the former president.
ABC News now learning that heavily armed local police were actually stationed inside the building. The gunman climbed, but they missed him. Butler town officials confirming that after they became aware of the threat, a local police officer climbed up to the roof and confronted Crooks, but did not succeed in stopping him.
What was your reaction when you saw the events unfold on Saturday?
Shock, and then concern, obviously, for the former president.
Investigators now trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The shooter climbing up seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the former president.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof.
Wait. Could you go back? Could you pause that? Could you pause that? Could you go back to like the image of the Secret Service guy?
Oh yeah, I got all of this. Okay. Yeah, let's that we could go on. Let's just keep going. We heard the ridiculous answer here.
So it was we're
what's the problem? A slope roof.
The most convenient shooting spot ever, 140 yards away.
Okay, let's see. Can I pull it up real quick?
Like the most convenient spot ever. Like literally direct line of sight. Like yeah, there it is. Like.
Investigators now trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The shooter climbing up seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the...
And the excuse is a slanted roof.
Like, excuse me, I remember what happened in 2008, okay? I remember, there's a lot of things that have happened that, at this point, they're just trust me, bro. Forgive me. I just don't.
What'd you just say? The excuses themselves are suffering from inflation. And now, in good Opti fashion on this show, good Simply Bitcoin fashion, we are getting our news from memes. We're internet extremists, and somehow the memes and Twitter has better news than what's coming out of the social media or the legacy media.
And that's the signal.
And that's the signal. Exactly.
That's signal.
All
right there.
So let's look at some of these memes. Jack Posobiec, make it make sense. They couldn't get security officers at Secret Service on there because of bad slope. Yet there's a sniper literally on a good slope. What is going on? This makes no sense. Or moving forward, hot or not, roof too slope for Secret Service to secure, but not too slow for FBI to hose away any technical or forensic evidence casually and fully unsecured. Probably nothing. Or Laura Loomer, conservative pundit, a literal cow on a slanted roof walking around. What is going on here? It's absolutely incredible that this is what the legacy media is rolling out as a good excuse for why they didn't secure a presidential candidate rally. This is Banana Republic type stuff. We've seen this play out for a while. We saw this play out in the past with JFK. The excuses are absolutely incredible. And, a couple more memes. I really like this one from Rothmus. This is the Galaxy Brain meme, where the evolutions of the Galaxy Brain memes. It was a lone gunman, barely anything going on in the brain. It was because of government incompetence. Some things are going on in the brain. It was because the government wanted to take Trump out, some more light going on. And then the ultra mega fully turned on view is the government wanted to take Trump out, but couldn't due to incompetence. And this is my favorite way to frame what's going on, because I think we're seeing in real time that the bureaucratic state, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, was actively trying to take out Trump. We've seen them try to do it with lawfare, with the courts, and now we're gone full-blown JFK, where they try to assassinate the seemingly next president. And to make this all worse, we covered this on Monday. The spin that we saw come out of the legacy media, the corporate press of, what was it, Trump falls after loud noises heard, is absolutely incredible. Well, look what CNN is rolling out now. And shouts at the Bowtied Ranger. He goes, we're officially reached the blame the country the U.S. government wants to bomb the most phase of the cover-up. And the headline from CNN is Secret Service ramped up security after receiving intel of Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. No known connection to shooting. The excuses are suffering from inflation themselves. And then, just to put a bow tie on this, check out this.
As a former government official, government's going to kill this guy.
And the donor class can't just sit back on the sidelines and say, oh, well, don't worry, this will all work itself out. They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump. And that's a fact.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Just pure programming of where things were headed. Absolutely incredible. If you still don't think that there's some fishy stuff going on, if we can't even acknowledge and question that some fishy stuff is happening when we see all of this play out, I don't get what, corporate press is completely lost in the sauce.
Guys, Opti and I play good cop. Opti plays bad cop, and I always try to give the benefit of the doubt. I try to be inclusive, and I try to not be conspiracy, because I'm okay, the Overton window, it's important. We have to stay relevant. It's we have to stay in the middle. We can't say too crazy shit. But come on, bro. Come on, dude. Like, it's a little weird. It's just a little weird. Like they're saying it. Like the thing. There's this other absolutely hysterical. Like what the security perimeter was during speech. Which was just hilarious.
Pac-Man, the Pac-Man. Zoom in on it.
Like, come on, dude.
Nico, click the photo. Yeah, there you go.
Like, okay, this is the Secret Service security perimeter. This is the perfect roof with and we're just, no. That's excluded from the security perimeter. And the reason that we didn't have people there, it's because that's a sloped roof.
Pac-Man wouldn't let us.
Just like there's a sloped roof where like the actual, like it, dude, guys, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Like, it's like, can we know for sure? No. Does it look suspicious? Yes. I love Elon's take, which is like the best one, which is like, this is either extreme incompetence or maliciousness. And they kind of overlap, like it starts to overlap in a little bit.
Well, just to add to that, Nico, like this is why we bring stuff up like this on the show, and we will continue to bring stuff up on this, is because, the meme of late stage fiat, I think, is defined by just sheer incompetence from the state, because it's so detached from reality that no one knows what's going on. They're just throwing in, fake money at fake problems, and you get really, really bad outcomes. And this is where we are right now. This is why it's so important to cover this stuff. This is why Opti will probably get canceled soon. Like, it is what it is. We got to do our duty and cover the madness of clown world. And if this isn't one of those moments that wakes people up to the fact that corporate press is pure propaganda, and that the institutions themselves are crumbling in real time, and this is why you need to protect yourself and buy Bitcoin, I don't know. It's going to be hard to top some stuff like this to open people's eyes. Like, it's literally the Neo meme again. Why do my eyes hurt? It's because you've never used them before. And so, the madness that we're going to have to experience as Bitcoiners and as people that aren't afraid to talk about the truth is going to only increase exponentially. But this is why we got to, stick on our principles and our morals and be like, we're independent news. We're going to cover this from a Bitcoin perspective. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and it really seems like Bitcoiners are the only one that really see what's happening. And we're the only ones that have a solution. It is stacking Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin fixes this. Like, Bitcoin fixes this. We're going to continue to highlight Clown World, and it seems like you guys liked it. The live stream viewers are hitting all-time highs in terms of the live stream. So we're going to continue to cover Clown World, not from the conservative perspective, not from the liberal perspective, but from the Bitcoiners perspective. And we have a solution to this. It's called Bitcoin. It's called the separation of money and state. Separation of money and state ends the Clown World. It ends the insanity. I'm sorry, guys. Like, yes,
don't drink the elite's Kool-Aid.
Yes, Epstein's jail cell, the camera was shut off, the security guards weren't there. Like, did he kill himself? I don't know, but very convenient. Just like all of that, extremely convenient. Pac-Man convenient, right? It's like, come on, dude. Like, it's just like clearly. This is coming. They've pushed this to such an extent. They've pushed this to such an end that they've betrayed the trust of the people, where we no longer believe them anymore. Right.
And that's why they're freaking out.
And that's why they're freaking out. Like, when the legacy media is telling you that Trump tripped and the Secret Service took him off stage, and they omitted the fact that it was an assassination attempt, like, that's a problem, right? Like, that's an issue. That's why we don't believe you, right? This is the same FBI that told Twitter to take the Hunter Biden story off because it was Russian misinformation. Like, it's the same institution. Like, we just don't believe them anymore. Now, again, this isn't crazy. Like, this idea of this uncontrolled bureaucratic administrative state. What you're really seeing is a bloated system because of the fact that they don't produce anything. They're not accountable. They have a money printer. If you're a business, if you aren't competent, you go out of business. You literally go out of business. So that forces you to be competent. If the government makes a mistake, you heard the lady, we are responsible, but I'm going to stay in the job. And like those slope roofs that a fucking cow could conquer, like too dangerous, right? Anyways.
Wait, one last thing, Nico.
Bitcoin fixes this. The separation of money and state fixes this. This is insanity.
And can I just bring this back to home for us, Nico? It's like for us, if we don't put out good content that you guys love and that is on the truth, we won't have a show. Like we're playing on different rules here for independent content creators versus the legacy media. Like they're just still getting paid even though they're blatantly lying. And here, if we are not entertaining, we don't hit you guys with the solid news, what we think is the news and the real takes going on, we won't have viewers. And like this is the divide that we're seeing happen in real time. It's absolutely incredible. This is, I hate using the meme, but the fourth turning happening in real time. You guys are the frontline soldiers in the internet meme warfare that we're seeing and see play out in real time. And the powers that be, once they get desperate, are going to do incredibly insane things because they're going to do anything they can to keep themselves in power and make sure that they control the money printer. Yeah. And this is what's happening. This is why this is a Bitcoin issue at large.
That's what it's about. Fundamentally, that's what it's about. Anyways,
hey,
guys.
wait, Nico, before you wrap up, one last PSA, guys. I did do a poll on today's episode about if you guys are running a node, and absolutely incredible results here. So it's simple. Are you running a Bitcoin node to verify your own transactions? 305 of you voted, and 70% of you guys aren't running your own node. We got to get those numbers up.
Okay,
you don't need to buy yourself a Start9 node, standalone node. No, what I'm saying is like you can literally get a ThinkPad and flash Start OS onto it.
No, but that's like most people. It's just like, bro, look, guys, run a node. It's super easy. Go to start9.com right now. Use promo code. Go to use promo code simplybitcoin. Get 9% off. Remember, if you're not running your own node that's connected to your own Bitcoin wallet, you're trusting someone else's. You're trusting someone else's copy of the blockchain, right? So if you really want to be sovereign, don't trust anyone. Just trust yourself. Run your own version of Bitcoin, right? So Opti went for the more technical level, which is like, build your own.
Well, it's really like if money is an issue, there's ways to route around it, and it's not going to be too difficult. But if you don't care, buy yourself a Start9.
Yeah, they have a cheaper options on Start9, which are incredibly great.
I'm only saying that, Nico, because Matt Hill wants me to continue to tell people it's not about the Start9 node; it's about the Start OS operating system. So if money is an issue, flash yourself the operating system Start OS,
which is free.
Which is free. And the standalone nodes are pretty much just to continue, getting the Start OS production out there. But the Start OS is I think, I'm biased here, but it's the best node out there. So like, if money isn't an issue, get yourself a Start9 standalone node. But if money is an issue, then you can simply download, Bitcoin Core on an old laptop or get yourself Start OS on an old laptop. Like, money shouldn't be the issue here for you guys running a node. It's just going to take you a little bit to do it. But if money's no issue, get yourself a Start9 OS.
Exactly. If you have a couple $100 to spare, totally worth the investment. Go to start9.com. You can use promo code simplybitcoin. You get 9% off. And run a node. Like
you have to run a node to verify the transactions for yourself.
That's so crazy. Someone's saying Umbro. Yeah, Umbro's good. I think Start9 is the best. I think the best operating system in my opinion in terms of nodes, because it has other functionality too. Like it's a cloud server, so essentially you're hosting all your data. right? Check out the interviews with Matt Hill. He goes more into details about that. But yeah, get yourself a Start 9, promo code simplybitcoin. Anyways, guys, that was our show for July 17, 2024. I'm your host, Nico. This is my co-host, Optimus Fields. We're Simply Bitcoin Live. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode. Until then, take care, everybody. Stack sats. Get yourself a node. God damn, 70%.
Yes, 70% is crazy. You guys
numbers.
watch this every day.
We
Get
gotta
a
get
node.
those numbers up. Okay. All right, everybody. Peace out.
Episode was brought to you by bitcoinwell.com, on a mission to enable independence.